Gents.
Thank you. We'll send you some more details as well.
Okay, there is no local board input, so we will move to Kāinga Ora update. So Nick Howcroft and Melanie Mason, welcome. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Morena koutou. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your time to let us provide an update on the Auckland large-scale projects. I'd also just like to acknowledge it's been a while since we've provided an update to the committee, and obviously would like to keep that more frequent going forward should the members be inclined. There has been a substantial amount of transformational change within our organisation, as well as maturing of these LSP programs over the last few years. So today I'm just looking to provide an update in terms of where the program is up to, what it's delivering for Auckland, and where the program is heading to. Not sure where I should be aiming this. Oops, wrong button. Might be a bit of, oh, there we go. So just in terms of the agenda, we'll be covering off the Kāinga Ora post reset and the key themes of our transformation, a recap of the program and joint program model, what we've delivered so far, some of the outcomes for the LSPs and how these neighbourhoods are doing, the changing environment, and the future of the LSP program. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's kind of.
I'll mute it for you.
Thank you.
Just say next.
Yeah, we'll do. Alrighty, well, while that next slide is coming up, it's been roughly 18 months since Kāinga Ora has gone through a significant reset, and our transformation is well progressed. We have a renewed focus on our core mission, which is providing and delivering social housing, first and foremost, and doing this in a financially sustainable way so we can keep delivering for the long term. We've improved organisational performance with a focus on cost effectiveness, actively embedding cost savings initiatives across our programs as a way of working in the organisation, improved efficiencies across the organisation, slowed the growth of debt, putting Kāinga Ora on a much stronger financial footing. The large-scale projects remain a key part of our mandate, which is what we're talking about today, with our public housing portfolio renewal a key objective that underpins this urban development approach. By leveraging our portfolio renewal mandate, working in strong formalised partnerships with the council family, we are not only enabling our public housing renewal, we are resolving infrastructure constraints, pulling build-ready land forward, and improving amenity and climate resilience for Auckland. So if we jump to the next slide, just a bit of a recap. The LSPs are fundamentally a joint program with council with shared governance and aligned investment. We leverage the public housing portfolio sitting across large contiguous land holdings and align programs for planned outcomes. The overall investment of the program is roughly $4.5 billion in terms of the total program. The activity also generates roughly $2 billion in land sales and associated build activity that follows on from that. Council's investment is highly leveraged as it unlocks significantly more funding from Crown and the market itself. Importantly, the benefits associated are related to Auckland and stay in Auckland. From Kāinga Ora's side, the partnership model with council remains a real strength of the program and a key catalyst we hope to keep building on for our wider portfolio across Auckland. As the program has matured, we are identifying how we can deploy some of these tools across our long-term program beyond the defined LSPs, really looking to leverage our joint programs and long-term planning together. Still not, so there we go. So just too many, sorry guys. Yeah, okay, it's a bit slow, sorry. There we go. Do you mind drawing this? Oh, We have to jump back one. So just staying with the numbers, the overall program enables 13,000 new homes on Kaingora-owned land within the LSPs. It also enables another 12,000 homes on private land that is associated with a wider infrastructure uplift. While housing enablement is a key driver, this is also a long-term urban development regeneration in priority locations with the broader benefits that come with this approach. Thanks, Mel. That's the right slide. Also, we'll jump on to the next one. In terms of performance to date, as at May of this year within our LSPs, over 130 hectares of land has been redeveloped, which was previously underutilised. Over 6,500 homes have directly been enabled in Auckland. So when we say enabled, those homes have been committed to be built on build-ready land enabled through the LSPs. Of that 6,500 homes, roughly 4,300 homes have actually been delivered, and about 1,500 of those are in construction. And there's a further surplus of capacity of roughly 2,000 homes on that enabled land already. We've delivered roughly a quarter of the full program opportunity and about 60% of the current funded program across Auckland. We're also seeing real outcomes from this work beyond the houses, better infrastructure, amenity, and flood resilience across these locations. Improved resilience includes places like Molly Green and Northcote. Overall better neighbourhood and community quality on the whole. Staying with the benefits, while the program is catalysed off housing renewal demand, it is delivering complete neighbourhood outcomes, including social amenity, not just enabling homes. The approach fosters the opportunity to engage early with community and mana whenua, supporting the restoration of cultural narratives and place identity, and fostering renewed confidence and pride within the community. This is often captured in parks and open spaces, safer streets and walkability, community identity and placemaking, and integrated stormwater solutions like we've seen in Northcote and some of the other LSPs coming online. Some of the other feedback we've had from developers as well as the community is more often than not very positive. So just using Northcote as an example, where we look to replace 400 existing state houses, we've enabled 1,700 homes, most of which are built today, as well as replacing the existing 400 Kaingora homes. Local principal of Northcote Intermediate also speaks about the reduction in crime recorded in the area, a byproduct of the new master plan, quality housing and restored natural environment. The change has also enabled the school to remove the bars from the school windows. So these stats are not abstract observations, they are indicators of significantly improved lives and social outcomes. And these benefits are really coming to the fore in our more advanced LSPs. No surprise that the housing sector has a lot of ongoing change at the moment. We have government-led housing policy change, infrastructure reform and planning reform changes. The market is also still fragile. Market conditions remain challenging in areas affecting development confidence, and the economic uncertainty also plays out in the space. For the LSP program, this provides an opportunity for many of these changes and is addressing a clear and important obstacle to housing growth. The LSP approach also supports priority investment in locations which are closely aligned with the government's Going for Growth strategy. The strength of commitment to a joined-up long-term program and investment alignment creates certainty for the locations and the confidence to invest in the neighbourhoods and communities from developers and business across the board. So the program continues as planned with joint commitment from Council and Kaingora. Funding is in place to deliver the current pipeline through to mid-2030s. This is roughly about 1.1 billion on asset investment specifically over the next decade or so. We have focused on delivering more per dollar, so always looking to more cost-effective and efficient ways to deliver. We've changed our delivery model to an in-house integrated approach, and we've also established cost savings initiatives process, which is already driving costs down in our CapEx programs across the large-scale projects. Across our joint programs and partnership, we're continuing to improve how we operate and work together and intend to leverage this platform across our forward programs. In Mangere, we are currently working on the next planned phase business cases, which form part of this current program. The associated work and neighbourhoods are scheduled for start later this year, subject to those business case approvals, which ultimately enables another 1,300 homes in Mangere. More broadly, and as reflected in our recent letter of expectations, the LSP program underwent an independent review late last year, and as captured in the LOE, it sets out that we will deliver our intended LSP savings, seek opportunities for efficiencies across the program, and continue to collaborate with local councils on the delivery of critical infrastructure. So in closing, the LSP program is continuing to deliver for Auckland. It is enabling significant housing supply in the identified and planned locations. It is improving infrastructure and resilience, pulling build-ready land forward in a planned, sequence and cost-efficient way. It's delivering visible and measurable community benefits beyond just the homes enabled. The Kaingora Council partnership is central to making it work, and the council investment is leveraging substantial additional investment. So looking forward into the future of the program, we are well positioned to continue supporting Auckland's growth and leveraging our large contiguous land holdings requiring housing renewal. We have a clear deliverable pipeline ahead of us, and aligning programs across Kaingora, Council Group and other key system players remains a strong opportunity we can keep building on. Thank you. That is the update. Chair, over to you.
Thank you, Nick. Questions? Ken?
Thank you. Under all this discussion about capacity, I heard you use the word capacity in PC 120, and that's going to encourage us to build around rail stations and go really high. Do you see Kaingora moving into that area? What percentage of your future builds would you think you would go into those areas, those high capacity areas around rail stations, or would you stay out of those areas?
Thank you, Councillor. At this point in time, the current commitments that sit within the LSP programs are well known, and Mangere is the latest one we are working on, which has some of those qualities. Coming back to our core mandate, our focus is certainly on the renewal of our public housing stock, but leveraging the opportunity and the learnings off of this LSP model is looking to the opportunity where we can have joint and aligned programs to leverage those outcomes. We'd certainly be looking to look at that, and our teams are starting to establish some of those working forums to look to those conversations.
Thank you. Kind of doesn't, like, I'm very complimentary of your builds, and the people who live around your builds find you very good neighbours, especially during the construction period. But what I understand is that this capacity is basically relying on market forces to put pressure on building in those high-rise areas around railway stations, etc. And you are just saying you're open to analysing the situation, but there's nothing driving you to build there, correct?
It's got to be affordable, and it's got to support the renewal of our housing stock. And if it does that, we'd absolutely look to support it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Richard?
Thanks, Chair. I know it's policy comes from the government, so I'm not trying to get you into that debate, but I guess, how are the houses rolling out? Because 2 years, we seem to be doing about 1/3 or 40% of the builds a year compared to 2 years ago. And also, have we overinvested in the infrastructure? Because it feels like where things weren't underway, Onehunga, Roskill, even parts of Northcote, like we were very lucky to get, I guess, many years of solid build on top of the infrastructure. But we've now just got fencing up where the housing was supposed to be. So is there a plan to continue, or is it just sort of selling it? I'm a bit confused about all this infrastructure investment, and now it feels like there's not a lot of Kaingora homes being built where they were supposed to be.
Thanks. Thanks, Councillor. That's a good question, and there's probably layers to that answer. I think first and foremost, it is to recognise over the past years, we have moved from increasing our portfolio, to renewing our portfolio. So in terms of our build activity, we look to maintain essentially a steady state of roughly 78,000 Kaingora homes, and just looking to renew the age of that portfolio. So for every home we sell or knock down, we look to replace across the portfolio. In terms of that specific lens on areas of infrastructure constraint, we do weigh up our portfolio needs across the broader portfolio, and existing infrastructure constraints or build-ready land, as well as what it's actually going to cost to develop those sites, will be key considerations to what we sell and what we enable. In terms of pulling the land build readiness forward and the infrastructure investment, it is cyclical. So as an example, at the moment, we'll see a lot more uptake from developers in your lower or medium density homes and less of the apartment build. That is harder to stack in the build market at the moment, but it is cyclical. So that is something we do need to monitor through the life of the program. But I can probably provide a bit more detail in terms of that portfolio approach as an action.
Yeah, that would be great. The other one, and once again, it might be government policy, so not your fault if the change you're not in control of. But, you know, I understand why they're selling more expensive land to go into the pool. But in my opinion, it used to be what I could see as a large land sale would go into maybe 3 or 4 homes either on the same site or in the same area. But just one example, down at Devonport, $12 million worth of homes, but there's going to be no additional homes there. So is there a plan for the fact that you're probably moving to only building in maybe lower income areas or areas that are further away from jobs and transport? Because surely, is there any social sort of investigation look on what the social outcomes of that is if we move away from sort of more high value land areas?
I mean, that's definitely a key consideration in terms of where we have existing communities, the level of amenity, then overlay the cost of redeveloping those areas versus exiting. There's not if it's the cheapest thing to do is to exit, that's what we'll do. You need to take all of those considerations on balance, and how far you'd move out and or renew is a case-by-case consideration with the portfolio level lens as well. So not every outcome is exactly the same on those merits, but again, I can provide some portfolio insights on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lotu?
Kia ora, thanks. I've got several questions. First, you mentioned flood resilience, and one of the builds there, one of the proposals there is the Mangere Te Ararata business case. You'll know that that was one of the waterways that really flooded during the Auckland flood. So if you could just tell us a little bit about what flood resilience you've put into the business case in order to mitigate those builds going forward into the future. Then I've got a couple of other questions. Sure. Kia ora.
Thank you. I'll give a bit of a high-level overview, and Mel might be able to add a few details on the flooding specifically. But that is certainly a key consideration for Mangere and specifically Te Rata. A high level of our existing homes are currently impacted by flooding or would be impacted by flooding. So first and foremost, there's an opportunity to leverage that renewal program, but at the same time look to build in resilience rather than solve for flooding on a site-by-site basis, actually approach it on a catchment level. So that is part of our joint programs and approach that's been picked up in those proposed business cases. Mel, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, so we've got the 2 business cases in Mangere going through at the moment. And we've been
Just lean closer to your microphone and just switch yours off, Nick.
So we've got the 2 business cases going through in Mangere at the moment, and have been working very closely with Auckland Council Healthy Waters Department as well, and aligning and understanding how their blue-green network projects are going to alleviate some of the flooding there, and where it's not alleviating flooding, looking at what Kaingora can do in addition to that in terms of providing attenuation at a community level, so it's not just looking at the Kaingora housing in that area.
Kia ora, thank you. And I'm really mindful that when the floods hit, some of the very new builds were really damaged, yet some of the older buildings that had been there for 50 years withstood it. So, there's something to be learned, I guess, from those old building practices. My second question is around parking. That's a big concern we hear all the time from residents. I'm just mindful when you've got so much housing going in, have you thought about parking, and are you, is that something that you will provide? Is there a minimum that Kaingora looks to provide, etc.?
Yes, so we do associate minimum parking with our typology specific to the Kaingora public housing, and then obviously that'll also be considered on a master planning approach. It is a fine balance between, worst case scenario versus what's reasonably affordable across the board. But yeah, we do incorporate that into our master planning, and we do link that back to the topology demand.
Kia ora, thank you. And lastly is about the future. Happy to hear that that's being considered. And I know when I first heard about the LSPs, I think I was still chair of the Otara Papatua Local Board, and we posed this question then. Otara clearly is a community or a neighbourhood that's got a huge, huge kāinga ora stock, but probably some of the oldest and some of the worst kāinga ora stock. When these are done, finally, are you looking to bring in other neighbourhoods like Otara, for example?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Councillor. Yeah, so these current LSPs sit under historical approvals at a high level in terms of these identified areas, but coming back to leveraging the maturity of this program, where we do have large contiguous land holdings that are characterized by high deprivation or flood impact, demand outstripping supply, there is an opportunity to approach them at an urban development approach and leverage that portfolio renewal. We obviously need to look at the viability of it from a commercial point of view as well, but certainly we are looking to incorporate that into our portfolio level planning and take these learnings forward beyond the current program that's committed. So that work is underway at the moment.
Kia ora. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Lottie. Julie.
Kia ora. I want to be a little careful here, not blame the messenger, but I heard quite a lot of portfolio, in particular leveraging portfolio renewal. I didn't hear the word state housing, and that worries me. Going back to your figure of 13,100 market and social homes, what is the current proportion of market versus social? It was, under the previous government, it was going to be in most neighbourhoods a third market, a third affordable, a third social. Affordable is no longer a thing. So what is the current ratio with that 13,100?
I can share the exact numbers with you, but certainly on the current business cases we're looking at, as I mentioned earlier, we've moved to maintaining our portfolio level. So as an example, in Mangere, we'll be looking to either replace all of the public houses that are removed to enable and or increase them to a degree in that area where we believe that the state housing, and then the balance would essentially be market. And when we talk about market's not just market in the sense we know it, that's community housing providers, that's built to rent, and that is market as well. But the proportions will vary from LSP to LSP. We do have a table that defines that current split, which I can provide.
I'd really appreciate that, because if you're including community housing providers in market, not social, then, I mean, those are social homes.
Yes.
So I'm not quite sure why you would include them in the market numbers. So if we could have that breakdown, that would be great. For context, I live in one of these neighbourhoods. I live in the Waikowhai neighbourhood. You mentioned Molly Green Reserve. Molly has an E in it, by the way. And what we see there is vacant sections, and new builds are market only, and they are market. They're not community housing at all. Anyway, I want to focus on a question. Sorry, Chair. So you mentioned there are a number of projects in relation to areas that are redeveloping. Your first photo you had was Freeland Reserve, a project I was involved in when I was on the local board. That was a council-initiated project which received shovel-ready funding during COVID and was done in partnership with Kāinga Ora under the previous government. Molly Green was another council-initiated project done with Kāinga Ora with shovel-ready money under the previous government. Greenslade Reserve in Northcote, which you also had photos of, same story. Te Ararata's already been discussed. What's coming for this stuff? You've talked about projects that have delivered and unlocked and addressed stormwater that have all been in the past, and many have come to fruition or being currently finished off. What's coming down the pipeline for those kinds of projects?
Thanks, Councillor. That comes back to our portfolio planning. Of our 78,000 homes, close to 40,000 of those are obviously located in the Auckland region specifically. And beyond the LSPs, there's a significant amount of activity, renewal activity, even on a site-by-site basis across our build program. And even where we are approaching on a site-by-site basis, there is uplift associated with that. So what I could do is provide a forward forecast of those planning intentions out of those 2,000 activities per year.
So, but when we're talking about, like you've talked about those specific stormwater and park upgrade projects where Kaingoora has been a partner with council, are there any more of those coming in Auckland?
There are no currently funded ones beyond the ones we've just spoken about that's in the pack in terms of the current large-scale program, but what we are signalling, we'd like to leverage our build activity and our forward renewal program to look to those opportunities.
Okay, but there's none on the books now. There's none in the pipeline.
No, this
Okay.
is what is currently funded and committed.
Thank you. There's an article in the Herald a couple of days ago. I haven't read it because it's in premium, but it indicates that you're selling a lot of land on the isthmus. Is Kaingoora abandoning the isthmus for future state housing? Is that part of the plan over time?
No.
Why then are you selling so many properties on the isthmus?
So in terms of our vacant land holdings, we have identified land that is not first priorities in terms of development opportunities. So that's again a portfolio level view, but there's no direction or policy to abandon the isthmus.
There have been comments from the minister that there shouldn't be state housing in Remuera anymore. That indicates an intention to abandon a suburb to me. Is that not the direction that you've received operationally?
No.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Okay, Daniel?
Good morning. So I think the presentation's been very interesting, and I'm sure the New Zealand taxpayer will be very gladdened to hear the focus on product stewardship, because I think you've got a complex portfolio. I was interested in the slide in relation to the LSPs for Hobsonville and Northcote. So, yep, looking good. So the proportion of the rentals have dropped from 43.8 to 24.8, and the total number of houses has gone from 576 to nearly 5,000. So the rentals, from my calculation, have gone from 252 to about 1,229. Does that sound about right to you?
The math sounds right, Councillor.
Okay. I mean, I think that's actually a really good outcome in terms of changing the mix. You're increasing the supply of your product within a community where I presume that the balance of the housing is privately owned, including pathways for first home buyers. Is that the model that you are looking at if you are able to get future liquidity to balance out your developments to provide pathways for that kind of opportunity for first home buyers? Am I correct in that?
So if you look at the original inception of the program, that certainly was one of the priorities. Our current focus is on the renewal of the public housing, notwithstanding there are secondary benefits. We don't directly enable the affordable housing and the market build, but certainly one of the outputs and one of the benefits of this approach that does come as a secondary output for these LSPs.
I heard you clearly when you talking about the renewals focus, and I completely agree with that. I think that it's long overdue and good that you're doing that. Can I ask, look, do you have a policy in relation to your divestment? Are you divesting straight to market, or are you looking for opportunities for first home buyers to look to buy your product? Or, I mean, your redundant land parcels and stuff like that, who's buying them?
So we do have a policy. Largely, most of our divestments would be market transactions, so open market process. But there are some exceptions to that. So where there are urban development outcomes and other key outcomes, we can look to structured deals that support broader benefits.
And finally, Chair, are those structured deals for the community housing provider agencies that might be looking to try and take a piece, if they can get it at a reasonable price, in order to try and advance their product, because they will be doing much smaller scale, and they will be squeezed at a true market price, but at a discounted price that might be an option for them?
I'll need to come back to you on the exact criteria, but by exception, yes, we'll look at opportunities like that.
Thanks, Daniel. Maggie?
Kia ora. Firstly, congratulations on an impressive presentation. I want to double down on Councillor Lotu's question around the car parking, more so to accentuate the severity and the potential health and safety risk it poses. In some areas, on-street parking can effectively turn a two-lane road into a single lane, creating congestion and potential emergency access issues. So it is really important to understand how these are being addressed in a way that doesn't further disadvantage any of the residents in the future planning. I will rest that there with you because it's already been posed, but I thought it was important just to spell that out. Unless you got a response.
Thank you, councillor. I think the key action there is for just to come back with an overview of our master planning approach to address that.
Cool, thank you. And I'm just curious to understand, are you in a position to share what percentage or number of partnerships have been engaged with Māori entities?
I can provide that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I can share that. I don't have it in front of me, but I can share that.
Great, I'm happy for you to share that with our technicians if that's easiest.
Thanks. Well, Shane?
Thank you. And actually, just following up a question from member Tukirangi. I've had a bit of a look in the housing register and went back 10 years ago and today on the ethnicity breakdown. And currently we've got 46% of our current wait list for state homes identify as Māori. That's actually higher than it was 10 years ago. So you'd be familiar with the policies around this. Can I just ask you in a general term, how are you catering to the needs of Māori and how are you changing your practices to help Māori into homes?
I haven't come prepared to speak across the entire Kaingaroa portfolio today, but specific to the LSPs, if I look to the Mangere business case we're working on, we'd obviously be looking specifically to the demographic makeup in that space. So certainly at that level, we are taking that into consideration within the business cases.
Thank you. And you have spoken today around kind of the buying and the selling sort of area of it, right? So looking at sales where families have been promised that when they move out of that area, they will be able to return to those communities when new ones were built. And that's been a consistent policy. Now we're talking about a steady state situation where we're selling over here and we're buying over here in maybe a different part of the community or a different part of Auckland. So has the policy changed in that time? I'm just a little bit confused. When you're selling in Mangere, how far out are you looking to then build?
So ideally, the first port of call is to maintain residencies within that neighbourhood. So when we do demolish and then replace, ideally we provide that opportunity for customers to return to those neighbourhoods. That is first priority, but where that's not possible, then we'll need to navigate that in those specific instances.
Just the last one. Would you be aware, off the top of your head, where in Auckland you're doing the most sales? What part?
I could certainly supply that to you.
Would it be the isthmus? Would it be west, south, north, anything?
I'll be able to supply that to you.
Okay, thank you.
I don't want to take a guess on the exact numbers.
It's all good. Cool. Hey, thank you so much. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
John?
Yeah, thanks. Interested in your comment about, and I think it was in reference to Northcote, the social outcomes or improved behaviour, I assume, and I think you mentioned the local intermediate school that said it was down on, and it seems to be a school that's open, so it hasn't got a big fence like a lot of them now, so I'm assuming people are going through it. But I'm just really curious because as to how you monitor those kind of social outcomes, because obviously they're really important. We have this kind of mixed use theory. Northcote's on a pretty grand scale, so I'm kind of interested in the difference between better outcomes as a consequence of being in better houses. So parts of Northcote were incredibly run down and poor state. Is there a natural improvement in social outcomes as a consequence of just being, in a nice, new, clean, warm house? Or are you noticing something wider in terms of the dynamic of a place like Northcote?
It's a good question, and we've actually just undertaken a piece of work now, and it's fair to say that those broader benefits are driven both from the new housing that's enabled, as well as that broader approach to the renewal and the redevelopment from an urban development point of view. And there's different buckets of benefits. Some of them are directly monetary returns, and some of them are broader social benefits. And we are starting to do some more work post-occupancy and post-delivery to better understand how those outcomes are matching against the intentions of the business cases.
So one follow-up question. Obviously in places like Northcote compared to previous Kaingaroa sites, they're a lot more intense, they're going up, they're a lot higher, more stories. One would assume there's therefore more potential for, conflict, for want of a better word. You've got more people living in one blocks. Are you finding that, or is that following the same trend in terms of those kind of improved outcomes? Has there been any specific things that you've noticed in terms of having, the kind of intensity and the number of people living in blocks that certainly wasn't the case previously?
Yeah, certainly it's not something you can ignore when you are intensifying or looking at medium or high density. It is a key consideration in terms of how you arrange those buildings and how you build them for operational management. Not every building is the same. Not every typology of cohort is the same across those buildings. So it does differentiate across the portfolio, but certainly a key consideration in terms of how they are placed, how they're designed, is taking into consideration how they will be managed and lived in, not just in terms of the cost or the product at the end of the day.
Thanks, John. Joe.
Oh, thank you. I'm just, it's good to have you here, and it's good to hear directly from Kāinga Ora, because it's so concerning to read in the media about statements that are being made about housing program. I just wanted to ask, in your presentation it says 2035. What happens after 2035 with this housing program? Because some of the infrastructure needs are going to outlast, I think, this program. Or is that the goal, is to make sure all these areas have got the infrastructure they need by 2035?
Yes, that's a good question. So that 2035 does relate to the specific areas that have been identified and that we are currently committed to. But certainly, I think as I touched on earlier, there are other areas of opportunity to leverage a similar approach where there are infrastructure constraints, where there is old housing stock across the portfolio, both on the macro and the micro. There are some instances, even on a site-by-site basis, where we might approach to redevelop existing homes where there may be infrastructure constraints. And it's not to say that may not be coming online. It could just be a sequencing aspect of when the infrastructure is coming versus when the housing renewal is being undertaken. And I think that's an opportunity for joined and aligned working together across organisations. But certainly, I expect there will still be requirements beyond 2035.
And how are you going with, are you still going to be building mixed housing? You've got private buyers and you've got state housing, social housing. You still going ahead with that kind of program?
No, in terms of our build program, it is only state housing. However, through the enablement or the release of the land, we see the market enablement and the market building, but we don't actually manage or pay for or fund that component.
Thank you, Joe. Sarah.
Thank you. Following the direction to scrap the Universal Design Accessibility Standards, what proportion, if any, of these LSPs will have homes built to Universal Design Accessibility Standards?
Yeah, just to clarify, the standards, they haven't been scrapped. There are still components of that criteria that form part of our standards. However, the SPE related to it is no longer a target in terms of the portfolio output. In terms of number of homes across our portfolio, there is a large component that has either full universal design or elements of universal design that can be retrofitted if need be after the fact. One of the benefits of the large-scale projects, because you're regenerating the land and rearranging the land, they are well placed for accessibility on the ground and or built forms on those land parcels. I couldn't possibly tell you exactly what percentage, but certainly those build standards do form part of our current specifications.
Would it be possible to get an update on the estimated number across the LSPs?
I can certainly look into it.
Okay, thanks very much.
Right, we did have a question from the Mayor, but he's been urgently called away, so we will move on. There are no more questions. So thank you very much for taking the time and fronting up and letting us know what's going on in your part of the world. So you can move back. Is there any discussion?
Thank you.
None. Someone like to move? That to be received? Thanks, Desley. Seconder? I'll do that. Those in favour say aye. And against, carried. Thank you. Righty-ho, next item on the agenda is the NZTA